Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a regular school board meeting today, August 7th, 2012. It is approximately 5:30 p.m., and we are at the boardroom, 1900 Price Road. Please rise for a moment of silence, followed immediately by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. And I was just informed that our public information officer, Mrs. Drew Brown, that her father passed away here very, very recently. So please keep her and her family in your minds and in your prayers. Moving on to roll call, Mr. Colunga and Mrs. Presas are not present. I think Mrs. Presas called in and she will not be attending. Mr. Colunga may or may not join us. Moving on to item 5, recommend approving the agenda of the regular school board meeting of August 7th, 2012 with any corrections and or deletions. Dr. Montoya.
President Escobedo, members of the board, on Section 7, Item A, Conference Presentation, Item 2, pages 8 and 9 will be deleted from agenda and backup. And on number Roman numeral 11, Personnel Matters, A, Item 33, pages 248 to 250 will be deleted from agenda and backup, and that is it.
You're just removing the pages, not the entire item, correct?
The agenda item.
Yeah, those agenda items.
The agenda items are being removed entirely, not just, okay. No.
Pages 248 to 250.
In other words, the item 33 and item 2 are removed. Okay, and I also, I understand we want to change the order of the day. We would like to move item 5 under Superintendent's Report Conference Presentation to right before item 9 after the public audience and public hearing. If that's correct, if there are no objections, any other corrections or deletions? No? Do I have a motion to approve? Have a motion for Dr. Saavedra, seconded by Mr. Aguilar. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to Superintendent's Report, Conference Presentation number 1. Presentation of 2 outstanding students whom are representing high school students throughout the nation. Sergio Cavazos.
So did you circle the consent agenda?
No, ma'am. I'm going to do that right now.
Thank you, Pat.
Okay.
Our assistant reminded.
Yes.
Board Secretary, thank you.
Moving on to consent agenda, I have received word from my colleagues that we will discuss and/or deliberate the following agenda items. Items under consent agenda: items number 9, 12, 13, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30, 31, 33 has been pulled. So one more time, number 9, 12, 13, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30, 31, and that is it. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Dr. Saavedra, seconded by
Second.
Mrs. Peña. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes unanimously. Conference presentation number 1. Recognition of 2 outstanding students whom are representing high school students throughout the nation. Sergio Cavazos, President for the National Skills USA, and Elisa Urban, Region Vice President. This was a board member request. Dr. Montoya.
President Escobedo, members of the board, audience, I'd like to very quickly read something from a board member that's not here at her request, Ms. Garcia. Good evening, parents, students, audience, and community. We are recognizing some very special students that have done very well for themselves, for their school, and their community. She apologizes for not being able to be here at this event, and it is with really great honor that this board has always said that we travel throughout the nation to meetings and conferences, but we have always been recognized as some of the best students in the U.S. and in Texas. And we wish our students, Mr. Cavazos and Ms. Irwin, much success Your leadership is the following. You have had long-term visions. You have had excellence. You have been able to plan. You have been very disciplined, very enthusiastic, a very responsible student. You have sacrificed, and your family has sacrificed, and you have a sense of humor and humility, and you also have persevered. You know, so remember, you are tomorrow's leader. Leaders are ordinary people with extraordinary determinations. And truly, you students, now and tomorrow, always remember the D's: discipline, drive, and determination. God bless you, and treasure every moment of your leadership. And we know that this coming year, 2012-2013, you will be leaders in Texas and the United States. So again, congratulations. And if you will step up, please.
Good afternoon, board members, administration. I am the proud principal of Veterans High School, and I'm also very proud to be the principal of this wonderful student, Sergio Cavazos, who is really representing Brownsville in a very, very positive manner, very competitive area that he chose to go to. And from what I understand, his teacher, his sponsor is probably on his way. I know that he has worked so hard with Sergio as well as with his team when they go to compete and represent our district. I would also like to present to you his father, who I'm very glad to meet and glad that he's here with his son to honor all of his accomplishments. At this time, I believe Sergio has something to share with us.
Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, esteemed board members and administration, my name is Sergio Cavazos, and I currently serve as the National President of Skills USA for the High School Division. Today, I'm here to talk to you and thank you all from the bottom of my heart for providing me with the opportunity to be successful in Skills USA and for allowing other school district students to be successful overall. Here's one of my favorite quotes from Ayn Rand. "The ladder of success is best climbed by stepping on the rungs of opportunity." Throughout your consistent support, we as students have been provided with these rungs of opportunity to be the best that we could possibly be. Personally, I came to BISD at the beginning of the 2010-2011 school year, and I immediately realized the difference coming from a private school. I realized that the main difference is the window of opportunities that this school district provides and how efficiently students can be successful. Recently, BISD has undergone several changes, but thankfully, the one thing that I feel has remained consistent is you all's passion to ensure that students remain successful and the best that they can be. Through the support of my advisor, my principal, the Career and Technology Department, our Board of Trustees, Dr. Montoya, I have been able to become as successful as I am today, and other students will continue to be successful. I hope you continue to support our programs, because I can assure you that more and more students will accomplish their biggest and most difficult goals with your support. We as students realize budget cuts continue to be a big part of education, but thank you for willingly supporting and continuing to support us and helping us continue to be the best that we could be. Thank you again for truly supporting the students, and know we will continue to make you proud. Thank you.
If you will step up here.
Yeah. Congratulations.
While he goes around, if I may, Dr. Montoya and Dr. Escobedo, I do want to make note that behind every successful student and excellent student is a wonderful parent. So to your parents, my hat's off and a big round of applause for your parents, because you wouldn't be who you are today without their support. So thank you to your mom and dad.
Also to recognize Alicia Irwin, the Regional Vice President from Skills USA. Is she here? Not here? Okay, we'll make sure she gets her certificate then. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on your achievement, and wishing you all the success in the future. Moving on to item 2, recognition of student participation, Santiago.
No, that's pulled.
Oh, that one's
We
pulled.
did
Yes,
it.
yes.
For a future meeting.
Item number 3, recognition of Brownsville Pony Shetland baseball team. This is a board member request, Dr. Montoya.
Again, as the group comes in and marches in, very successful team, the Pony Shetland baseball team, 5 and 6 division. Ms. Pena, if you'd like to say something.
Yes. We have a lot of recreational activities for children after school, which is very important, I think, because we got to keep them motivated, keep them together, and keep them busy. I want to commend the coaches that are here with this team. These are 5 and 6-year-old children. This is the all-star team from the Brownsville Pony Baseball League. And they've had wonderful accomplishments, and they won the sectional, and they went to the state to represent Brownsville, Texas. With their coaches, Mr. Jesse Rodriguez, if you would be kind enough to announce your players by name and your coaches before they come up. And I wanted to recognize them, to tell them how important it is that they continue to succeed in school and out of school. And I thank the parents, because without the parents, we wouldn't have this. Without the parents suffering 105-degree weather, sitting out there drinking water, our children would not be out there succeeding the way they have. And it's been proven, if you keep kids busy outside of school as well as in school academically and with recreational and all the activities that we do in school, you will have better leaders because they're well-rounded. So, Jesse Rodriguez, with that, I hand you the microphone.
Yes, here we start with Omar Banda, Gael Rodriguez, Eri Maldonado, Mando San Miguel, Alejandro Torres, Damien Garza, Kevin Flores, JJ Salazar, and Damien Treviño. And our staff is Eri Maldonado and Omar Banda and myself, Jesse Rodriguez.
Coach, if you go ahead and come up here first, please. Coach, if you'll come up here so I can give you the certificates, that way you can give them to the right student here. We put in appreciation various certificates for each of your players. Congratulations.
Playing baseball, okay? Good job. Congratulations. Good job. Thank you, Coach. Thank you. Congratulations. They're all excited. Congratulations. Go to hold back so they can take a picture of the ball.
Congratulations.
Okay, because you're going to take another picture. Wait, just take a picture, okay? You're going to start throwing them everywhere. They're lost.
If I may, Doctor. And today we hand them a certificate from the Brownsville Independent School District, from the Board of Trustees and Superintendent Carl Montoya, recognizing, and we put the name of each child. This one happens to be Jeremy Aleman, for his team participation in the Brownsville Pony Shetland All-Star Baseball Team 5 and 6 division that captured the sectional championship title and advanced to the state of Texas. And this is signed by our superintendent, and we have one certificate for each child.
All the way to the back. All the way back. All the way to the back.
Come on over here. Sign up right there.
If you do me a favor, some of you kneel down like we do for the baseball picture.
Stand down there and show up.
The younger ones in front. Here is some.
like I told you, like that, with this.
Where's the star showing? There you go. And just for information, we start at 4-year-olds with this league. And believe it or not, we have a lot of 3.5-year-olds playing. So I'm very proud of these 5- and 6-year-olds. Oh, okay. 6, right? How old are you now?
7 or 8.
No, well, you're 6, age 6. You turn 7 after the cutoff date.
Yeah, don't disqualify us. No.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Such pretty colors. I like it when kids wear bright.
Your paparazzi, guys. Don't move. Got one more.
Y'all are more popular than Justin Bieber.
One more. Don't move. Don't move. Don't move. Maybe. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. Good job. Thank you. Congratulations. Thanks for all you do.
Thank y'all very much, and congratulations to our Pony Shetland baseball team. Moving on to item 4, recognition of North Brownsville Little League team. Dr. Montoya, this was a board member request.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, another group that has done very well representing themselves, the community, and also their baseball group is the North Brownsville Little League team, 11 and under division, who recently captured the Little League state championship. So it's quite an honor, and we're very proud of them. Coach, if you want to make some comments.
It's a great honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I would really like to take this opportunity to thank the parents. We have a lot of support from our parents. Not only are we blessed with a great set of kids, but we are blessed with a great set of parents. And we want to give glory and honor to our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you.
If I may, Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to note also that this is the first time, and correct me if I'm wrong, over 50 years that Brownsville's been able to capture a
That is
state
right.
title
That is
in
right.
Little League, and that's where we all started. Unfortunately, back in the 60s, girls were not allowed to play, but they are now. So I want to congratulate you
Thank you.
because you've done a wonderful job and you've captured a title that Brownsville's been seeking for many, many years.
Thank you. You are correct. No one has ever done it south of Houston, south of San Antonio. Brownsville is on the map.
Thank you so very much.
Coach, if you want to come up and bring your
You'll
players.
announce your players by name, Coach?
Marco Sanchez, Justin Anaya, Lee Alonso, Christian Gonzalez, Alan Aguilla, Johnny Bailly, Sebastián Cantú, Rosales, Jacob Alonso, Lozano, sorry about that, Villafranca, George Villafranca, Michael Gomez. And our general manager is Mr. Aguilla.
Congratulations, honey.
Coach Carlos Sanchez.
Congratulations. 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 Congratulations.
Congratulations and thank you. Congratulations and thank you, Coach. Congratulations.
Thank you for your dedication.
And Dr. Escobedo, if I may, I would also like to thank the parents of this team because they have given up a lot and sacrificed a lot to get these kids where they are. So players, if you guys would like to give your parents a big round of applause because they were with you every step of the way. So thank you, parents. Hold it with a star.
No. Even to Hudson. Could be.
Dr. Escobedo, if I may, can I borrow one of the certificates so I can read out also what this one says? May I, Dr. Escobedo?
Of course.
I need my glasses, I'm sorry, while y'all stand up here. Each player is receiving a certificate from the Brownsville Independent School District, from the Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Carl Montoya, recognizing, and it's got the player's name, this one happens to be Raul Rosales, for his participation in the North Brownsville Little League All-Star Baseball Team 11 and Under Division, who recently captured the Little League State Championship title. Signed by Dr. Montoya, our superintendent. Again, thank you very much for your hard work, coaches. We're very proud of you and your team. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good job, guys.
Thank you all, and congratulations to our North Brownsville Little League team.
Next year, you'll make it to the World Series. I am looking forward to that. You will do it. Give it a name, it'll happen.
Moving on to item B, standing budget items, board calendars. Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, now in August, tomorrow, August 8th at 1 p.m., we have the Board Insurance Subcommittee meeting. At 3:30, we have the Budget Board Subcommittee meeting tomorrow, and of course the public is invited to that. Also Thursday, beginning at 8 o'clock at Veterans High School, we have our back-to-school administrators welcome and in service. So we invite anybody that would like to attend that. Also on August 16th, Thursday, the new teachers in service at Veterans for some of the new teachers that have been hired for this coming year, and that's at 8 o'clock at Veterans. And that is all.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya. Moving on to our next item, public audience. The next item on our agenda is a public comment period. This is a time for citizen, staff, or students to provide your comments to the board. Statements and questions from the audience will not be permitted during other portions of the meeting, so let us hear from you now if you have comments to present. To have your comments heard tonight, your name and the subject matter must be signed in the sign-in sheet, which is located in the rear of the meeting room. Each speaker will be limited to 5 minutes to complete his or her comments, and without due courtesy, we will strictly enforce that time limit. If a group of people want to be heard on the same topic, the board asks that they designate a spokesperson to avoid needless repetition. The board has adopted rules to preclude the abuse of open forum by, for example, anyone uselessly repeating the same comment or complaint meeting after meeting. All participants must understand that if your comment, in my judgment, constitutes a complaint against an employee or an officer, I will interrupt you and stop you and direct you to the BISD's formal grievance procedures, be that DGBA, FNG, and GF Local. With those cautions in mind, we'll now be glad to hear your comments. The first speaker is Francisco Cifuentes. The subject is just employee concerns. Mr. Cifuentes? Is Mr. Cifuentes in?
He's coming.
Our next speaker is Fernando Galvan, bus driver seniority.
Good evening, Mr. Superintendent and members of the board. My name is Fernando Galvan. I am the attorney for a group of bus drivers who serve the school district over in the transportation department. It's bus drivers and monitors also. The name of the organization is Choferes Unidos, and I've addressed to the board before, maybe about a couple of months ago. They have asked me to approach the board today and bring to your attention a concern that these bus drivers and that these monitors have. There's about 60 or 70 of them in our group, and they all have the same concern now that we're starting with the new school year. And that is that they are worried that maybe under this new administration that a system that has been in place now for about 10 years, which has worked very well for both the administration and for the bus drivers and for the monitors, that it might be set aside. Specifically, I'm talking about the system of seniority. The bus drivers and the monitors are concerned that the administration and management over there might do away with the system of seniority, which has ensured in the past predictability and order, and above all, fairness. Fairness in assigning routes, and fairness in compensation for the bus drivers and for the monitors. Their concern is that if a new system is implemented, that seniority will no longer be observed or respected in the assignment of routes or in compensation. Again, it's important both to the school district and to the bus drivers is that it ensures both predictability and fairness. Their concern is that if there is not a system of seniority, then the bus routes will be assigned in an arbitrary manner or in a capricious manner or in a manner that is given to favoritism. That is, that certain bus drivers who have a more favorable relationship might be given the preferential routes in an arbitrary manner, and that would not be fair. What has worked in the past, what has worked for the past 10 years, is that these assignments be made according to seniority. That's the most fair way to do it. And this is the system that has been worked out between the administration and the bus drivers for about 10 years. It has worked for the past 10 years, and we are urging the administration to continue observing this system because that is probably the way that the administration will most avoid problems and will make sure that the assignation of routes will continue to be fair and that it will not be arbitrary. And I thank you for your time. I urge you to bring this to the attention of the Transportation Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Galvan. Your points are well taken. Our next speaker, I'm not going to try to read your last name because I can't quite read it, is Isabel. The subject is BISD bus drivers. Isabel Rojas, okay. Rojas?
Isabel Rosales.
Rosales.
Rosales, yes. I'm actually the district director for Representative Oliveira, and he could not be here this evening, so he sent a letter that I can read for him, and I've actually turned it into the secretary to be a part of the record as well. Dear distinguished members of the Brownsville Independent School District Board of Trustees, I write with extreme urgency on behalf of the hardworking men and women who are employed as school bus drivers in the Brownsville Independent School District. Our district's drivers should be treated with dignity and respect as they play an essential role in the team effort required to make a school district function efficiently. Just as the bus drivers are entrusted with ensuring the safety of our children, so should the board be entrusted with ensuring fair and just working conditions for the same bus drivers. Drivers deserve a full-time work schedule, adequate breaks, and an open ear on behalf of BISD administration to listen and respond to their concerns. As always, thank you for your service to our community. Sincerely, Rene O. Oliveira, State Representative, District 37. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, the comments are well taken. Is Mr. Cifuentes in? No? Okay. That concludes the public comment period. Board now goes into open hearing. Grievance, I understand the grievance has requested an open hearing. Dr. Montoya?
That is correct, President Escobedo. Members of the board, they have requested an open hearing, level 3, here in front of the board.
Right. We'll take a short break, no more than 5 minutes, to allow for the setup. So with that said, board goes into a short recess. 3 board grievance 003/12-13, Mario Herrera, on behalf of the Organización Fondo de Ahorro Laboral. Counselor, again, as always, please, there will be order in this boardroom. Just because we're in open session does not authorize either party to grandstand or get out of order in any way, shape, or form. Chief, you are on standby. Dr. Montoya?
Yes, sir. At this time, Mr. Michel, if you'll go ahead and give the information, and we'll proceed from there.
This is a Level 3 hearing from a Level 2 appeal which denied the grievance. Mr. Shergold, you will begin and have 10 minutes. The administration will have 10 minutes also. You may reserve part of your time for rebuttal, as can the administration. If you will tell me how you would like to split it, I will make note of the time and give you an advance warning.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. I'd like to go ahead and do a football score. I'd like to go ahead and put 3 minutes to start and 7 minutes in rebuttal. Thank you.
Okay. I have a timer here, so whenever you're ready to begin, please start, and I'll begin the timer.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I want to put on the record my opposition to what the president of the school board just said. He addressed his comments to counselor. I guess he was addressing it to me, and about grandstanding. And I resent the fact that comment was made to me. And also, I believe that you should, and I ask that you recuse yourself. I don't believe you can be a fair and impartial officer to hear this case after making that type of biased comment, assuming that you directed it to me, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, and I will stay.
Note on the record my protest to Mr. Escobedo to sit on the board after he made a comment, and that comment has been recorded. I'm here today to stand up on behalf of my client. Mr. Herrera is the proud president of the organization he represents that is, I believe, a testament to labor and its ability to represent itself. The grievance is very simple, that the hours that were given, or I should say working for this for the bus drivers to work and the bus monitors for the 2011-2012 school year was reduced from 40 hours to 32 hours. We make for record to the Texas Commissioner of Education for review. We point to the fact of the school district's own records. Its policy book that was placed into the record in this grievance, 2011-2012. The policy on page 47, if memory serves correct, indicates that the number of hours is silent on the number of hours that the bus drivers and monitors are to work. In the previous year, the evidence has been put into the record by the district. The number 32 was placed into those policy records in previous school years, and with the policy being enacted by the Transportation Department. I would submit to this honorable board that the absence of those number of hours indicate the intent of this district through its policymakers not to assign 32 hours for the 2011-2012 school year, and for the purposes of review of the Texas Commissioner of Education, we would classify that as a school law violation. And if this board does not rule in the favor of the grievant union, we will make a point on appeal on that issue. Mr. Michel, how much time do I have left, please?
You've had 2 minutes and 40 seconds.
We will present evidence tonight that the union not only does that one issue, but the second issue is that the union and all the bus drivers in the Transportation Department have been put under a timer to get from one point to the other, have in essence made a policy of Domino's Pizza, where we're delivering pizzas within 30 minutes. Now we're delivering kids within 15 minutes, and we believe that that's created a liability issue. With that, I will go and reserve the remainder of my time. Thank you.
Okay, the administration, if you would tell me, how would you like to divide your time?
We'll do the same, 3 and 7.
All right. Begin when you'd like, and I'll begin the timer.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, and Dr. Montoya, I'm here today representing administration, here with Mr. Barbosa from the Transportation Department, as well as Mr. Haynes, who will be assisting as well. Mr. Shergold has begun by indicating initially that this is a concern of safety. It is. Safety is a big concern for our district. Safety is a big concern for this administration. What was failed to be expressed is that this administration is extremely concerned with the safety of our students, our bus drivers, bus monitors, all our employees, as well as the public. In addition, we have required pre-trip and post-trip inspections in order for us to remain in compliance with federal and state regulations. Mr. Shergold states that they're cutting hours, and apparently what's inferred is that we have cut hours to save money over these issues. We will address that further in our rebuttal. I did want to address, allow Mr. Barbosa to address to you how it is that this all transpired. And at this time, I will go ahead and pass that over to Mr. Barbosa so he can explain that in a few minutes.
Mr. President, Dr. Montoya, members of the board, public, this all came about as a result of the external audit that was conducted through BISD this prior year. And as a result of the findings, there were some areas of lacking in our department. We simply had to come back and streamline and clean up and make the department more efficient. And we didn't create any new rules or anything. These were simply things that were already in place in our employee handbook and our SOP. And so we simply shored up the line and streamlined what we had to do. And as a result, we feel very confident that what we've done has been the best for the students, for this our department, our district, and for the community in general.
Thank you, Mr. Barbosa. How much time do I have?
It's been 2 minutes and 18 seconds so far.
I just wanted to address real briefly that Mr. Shergold stated that what was created was a policy by Transportation Department. It's in our policy book. In fact, it's not policy. It's our Standard Operating Procedures Manual. It's a guideline. Those are guidelines for the Transportation Department. And further, on March 23rd of this year, Mr. Rendon wished, in order to be able to streamline, based on the recommendations from our external auditor of the forensic audit, that in order for us to be able to streamline some of the issues or some of the overtime that was being met at that time or being provided to these drivers, we wanted to, or the administration wanted to just reiterate or repeat what was already in those operating procedure manuals. So everything that's in that March 23rd, 2012 memorandum is not new policy. It's not something that was created this year. It is something that has been in place and going back after policy behind previous year and previous year, as far back as 2007. Most of everything that's in there is part of the Standard Operating Procedures Manual. It is not district policy.
3.5 minutes. Okay, so you're going to?
No,
okay.
I'll reserve.
Mr. Shergold, whenever you'd like to start, go ahead.
Yes.
You have 6 minutes and 48 seconds.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to put on the record that under the Fifth Circuit, under the Barrow case, Fifth Circuit, Federal Reporter 377, it states explicitly that the only recognized policymaker in a school district is the board of trustees. I think counsel made my point beautifully. However, if you look at the policy book, it says in it at the very preamble, if you look at the policy book, it's part of the record, that the policies are superseded in this book by school district policies. So the comment that was made about that this is how, or separate this from the board and its policy making is just not what it is. This policy book is basically adopted by the school board. And this is not Mr. Rendon's policy or Mr. X or Mrs. Y's policy. This is the policy that the board has created and has adopted. So in the policy, it's very clear that this rule or this school year, there is no limitation on the number of hours that the school bus drivers and monitors were to be assigned. So my argument is very simple. How did it change? Who changed the policy? Was it the school board, who's duly elected by the citizens of this school district, or was it by administration who decided to change the policy? Under the Fifth Circuit, which I have to go by through sterdicis. I have to look at what the Fifth Circuit says. And it says that the board basically makes the policy, and that the test is that administrator or is that employee of the school district somehow encapsulated or limited by what that person's decision in the school district is. Obviously, an administrator doesn't have the authority to decide how many hours and what the policy here can be changed willy-nilly just in the middle of the school year. Okay, that's the legal argument. That's why we have policy books, so that they're followed and that there's a rule of law, not to be changed arbitrarily. Safety issues. Well, how do you require a person or a driver to get from one point to another in 15 minutes? That's part of Grievance Exhibit 1 and 2. That has a memorandum that was set out to the school bus drivers that they had 15 minutes to get to a location. And I hear administration's representatives saying that that's in the safety of the kids, to put a bus driver behind a wheel and say you've got 15 minutes to get to your job where the school is. And can anybody sit here in good conscience and say that that's in the best interest and the safety of the children of the school district? I don't believe so. The issue that we have here is very clear, that the evidence regarding the district changing the policy in midstream is one of a school law violation. And the school district needs to be aware, meaning the board members, that you have the authority to create the policies. I will also submit that if you look at the prior school years, you'll see that there was a limitation of 32 hours, but not for the 2011-2012 school year. And so that must mean that it was left out for a reason. Or, in the alternative, it was left out either by purpose or it was left out because of mistake. But it was left out. That's the bottom line, and that's what you have to live with. It's right here. The other issue I'd like to talk about is the fact that the bus drivers are not here to protest or to cause problems. They're here to enforce the rights under the First Amendment. And we also have part of this grievance, retaliatory nature, that the district has, and we have information. We've asked the district to investigate whether city prosecutor Bobby Lerma was approached, and who was he approached by, if by someone of the members of the district. And we asked in the grievance level 1 and 2 to do an investigation and find out from him if he had been approached. And the approach was to somehow look and see if the bus union had done some sort of illegality by protesting. I would submit that there are people in Afghanistan and have fought all over this world for the United States. And that's the right that they basically gave us, to go out and peaceably assemble. And for that to have occurred possibly is, if it is true, we would ask that the school board investigate and find out whether that occurred or not. We've asked, we haven't received a response from either level 1 or 2 grievance responses to that point. Maybe it did happen, maybe it didn't, but we believe that it should be investigated. Now, the other issue that we have is that the level 2 grievance response that we received from Mr. Haynes is void of the issue of getting to point A to point B in 15 minutes. We concede the fact that other school districts have post-trip and pre-trip inspections that can last anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. The issue that we have is not that. The issue is that the driver is compelled to drive within a 15-minute period. That response, and Mr. Haynes' response, was void, was absent. And if I have to stand here and represent my clients and point this out, that is my job. It's nothing personal. It's just my job, and I want the board to understand that. But it also is my job to decide who I represent and how I represent. And I believe that this is a very important case for the school board, because the issue is it's safety and it's dealing fairly
1 minute
with people who live in our community, go to church in our community, send their kids to school in this community, and basically are active members of our community. And they are very important, the drivers and bus transportation members. And for the district to come in here and say it's not about money, that we cut the hours and it's not about money. You know, maybe some folks within this administration believe that, But I don't believe anyone outside this circle or at this building would. And I live out there with most people, and most people, I think, are very smart. And I think that they can see right through what this is. So if the president of the board, with all due respect, if he wants to have
10 seconds.
If he wants to state that I'm grandstanding because I came up here and had the guts to represent these people who had the right to be represented, then I'll take the heat. I've taken it a long time in this community, and I'll take it a lot more.
Time is up.
All right, thank you very much. And we just, in our remedies, we just ask that you grant the remedies that are in the document or come up with some alternative. Thank you very much.
The administration has still reserved 6 minutes and 28 seconds. Begin when you'd like.
Thank you. Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, and Dr. Montoya. Getting back to the matter at hand, I'd like to go back to the March 23, 2012 memorandum, which you have received in your board packet, which clearly state that those are merely guidelines for clocking in and clocking out. Further, there's a direct quote in there that states, administration is well aware that not all routes are logistically identical and recognizes that many of the routes can be managed within 3.15 hours, and in some cases they may require beyond 3.15 hours. The memorandum further addresses that drivers may clock in 45 minutes prior to their first scheduled pickup time. And this 45 minutes includes 30 minutes for the pre-trip or vehicle condition report, the VCR, and 15 minutes of travel time to the first pickup location. We are not asking that the drivers be anywhere in 15 minutes throughout the entire day. We understand that there are extenuating circumstances. There are unexpected circumstances. The administration expects that if there are extenuating circumstances or outside circumstances, that there be communication between the driver and the Transportation Department administration so that it can be either accepted or alternatives can be provided. It's also important to note that the Transportation Department has not presented these guidelines without reviewing, researching, and compiling objective data, not subjective data, to determine these guidelines. In comparison to other districts in the state of Texas of comparable size, Brownsville ISD provides the most time for its bus drivers and monitors to conduct its pre-trip investigation time and allotted time for destination and their post time. There was a chart that was provided in your board packet, which would have been in page 123, which basically goes through and outlines how the Transportation Department came to derive to their figures. This is not something that they just came up with in thin air and decided you've got 15 minutes to get from one place to another. If you look closely, you have McAllen ISD, who's provided only 30 minutes from pre-trip time to the time that they're supposed to also arrive at their first destination. You have Corpus Christi, who has 15 minutes total to do their pre-trip inspection and arrive at their destination. And there are several others here as well. Laredo United has 15 minutes, and they allow 15 minutes for allotted destination time. Nowhere in here are we outside of the objective data that's been reviewed, researched, and compiled. The 45-minute time frame ensures that our vehicles are carefully and adequately inspected for the safety of our students and for the buses remain clean. And the Standard Operating Procedure Manual has a saying in it that states, it is better to arrive at your destination late and safe than not getting there at all. That is pretty much what this boils down to. We are not here trying to dictate to them, these are guidelines. These are, if you were to efficiently do your job, it should be able to be done within that time frame. But they understand that there are outside circumstances. In order to go back briefly, because how much time do I have, Counselor?
You have approximately a little less than 2.5 minutes left.
Just to go back briefly on the issue of the standard operating procedure manual of this past year of 2011-2012 that was missing the information stating that there was a 32-hour work week. This information, first of all and foremost, has been in the standard operating procedure manuals as far back as 2007, is what I have personally observed. This year, it was not in the manual. This past year, it was not in the manual. From what I understand and the investigation that I've conducted, it was inadvertent. The current administrator was not the administrator that prepared that manual. However, we have been able to go back and determine that back in August of 2011, beginning the 2011-2012 school year, there was a presentation provided to the Transportation Department. It's their standard welcome back to school in service. And in there, it specifically states their morning hours, what time they're to go in, out, their afternoon hours, and that is a 32-hour work week. Therefore, they were fully informed at the beginning of the school year that there was a 32-hour work week.
1 minute.
And in closing, I would just like to address the issue of the policy. Again, exactly what I was saying previously was that the Standard Operating Procedure Manual is a guideline. It's a manual for our Transportation Department. The policy, yes, is created by this board, and that in there, what was in there doesn't mean that just because it's in the manual doesn't mean that it's actual board policy. So I just wanted to make that clear, and also to reiterate that the safety of our students, the safety of our drivers, the safety of our employees, and the safety of everyone in the public in this city is of utmost importance to this administration. And that is why we want to make sure that our children not only arrive safely, but that they arrive timely for their instructional day. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the board? Mr. Aguilar?
Yes, let me, Dr. Montoya, really, what is the policy?
Dr. Montoya?
There is no direct policy. It's more of a manual based on that's been in place for a few years. I understand that the bus drivers have had this, and again, I don't have it before me, but it's been a manual, not necessarily a direct policy.
Well, sir, is that the only department that doesn't have the board guidance when we say the employee should be working X number of hours a week or a month? Or is it left out to the administration? I just want to clear some of these things, because normally when we talk about wage an hour and all those things with other departments, we specify the number of hours. Is it being done with the same thing with the bus drivers or transportation for that matter?
No, again, it's based on whatever was in the manual that was shared with the bus drivers, and we have similar pieces of information, obviously, for other departments, but this just happens to be this group. So,
Ms. Peña?
Yes, Dr. Montoya, can you define the word policy? What, just in a nutshell?
Policy to me would be a very formal board inspired and decided that this is what has to be. And then beyond that would be the operating procedures, of which this is what this manual is.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Does not our operating procedure tie directly into our policy? Because you can't make an operating procedure that does not take into account what the policy, the objectives of the policies. So isn't one automatically tied into another?
I would say to a point it is, but again, there's room for interpretation by the department depending on their needs and safety issues and other things.
And I guess my question is, Dr. Montoya, is when do we choose to follow policy and when do we choose to use only guidelines? Because that's when you can get into really murky waters. And that's one of the things that, if I may, that I just want to make sure that we are fair and impartial to all our employees in every department. because in my understanding, policy is very, very important, and your procedures that you're using always tie into your policy. You can't deviate from policy. It's just like when we make laws, the state laws can't supersede a federal law, or a city can come up with an ordinance that supersedes a state law. So what I'm actually saying is, have we researched where these operating procedures came from? How long ago were they established? And if any of those procedures were established with a policy that was established 10 years ago, and now it's been kind of separated, when in essence it was always a policy that was turned into a procedure. I just want to know if that exists.
See, again, I understand from what I've heard here and the brief research we've done that these things have been in place for a lot of years, but operating procedures have changed depending, again, on safety needs and those kinds of things. Okay. But I don't know how long this particular manual, I heard 10 years, and then I heard, I think, 2007. So, again, I don't know the specifics.
Mrs. Longoria?
Yes, sir. I agree with Ms. Ortiz. This manual is not a policy, and each department develops an SOP, which is a standard operating procedure for each department, because each department has different areas of responsibilities. So you cannot follow one set policy to develop your manual guideline. This is an administrative guideline, and also you cannot mix the department operating procedure with policies, because we do not adopt this manual guideline. This is an administrative procedure. This is the way each department develops their manuals, regulations, and have to comply with the laws, federal and state laws as well. And I recall this manual, the 32 hours, if I'm not wrong. I think the board that was back then, 07, approved the 32 hours for the bus drivers because of the schedule. You don't have routes all during the day. You have some in the morning, and then you have some until late in the afternoon. So the 32 hours, if I remember correctly, was a board action. It was approved because there was no set hours. So everyone was just, I don't know, it was just chaos. So I think at that time, back in 06, it could be longer than that, the board decided to vote on a 32-hour week for the bus drivers. And I can't see how they can, and I guess the reason behind it was because they do, in actuality, do work 40 hours when you combine the extracurricular activities and after-school tutorials. So I don't see how would you say that they've been cut their hours when all this time the 32 hours has been implemented.
Thank you, Mrs. Longoria. Just, Dr. Montoya, I know that once or twice the forensic audit was mentioned. Refresh our memories. What exactly the forensic audit said about the transportation department and the hours and the overtime?
Again, for the record, since it was mentioned here and the forensic audit is now public information, according to the forensic audit, there was, and I'll say it because it was in the report and it is public, that the overtime had exceeded, an excessive amount of time, and possibly it had been abused. Now, whether you define abuse as a different issue, but that was very clear in the forensic audit that there was excessive hours and signing in very early, and some of the people not driving for a while, and those kinds of things. So it was very specific on the findings from that perspective.
Mrs. Peña? Thank you, Dr. Montoya.
With that said, and I have two questions. First one is, we went to 32 hours, but when we had a meeting here, I recall being told, and I can't remember which, I'm sure it was from the transportation department, that all bus drivers are pretty much guaranteed a 40-hour week, like Ms. Lucy mentioned, because of the extracurricular activity. Does that still stand? Do we have, like, the drivers actually, no one works less than 40 hours in that?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Mr. Barbosa as the administrator on that one.
I think it'd be a fair statement to say, ma'am, that a driver would work very hard to only make 32 hours. They're able to make up because of their trips, their middays, their tutorials, their extracurricular activities. They have to go to different activities, whether it be band, choir, football, et cetera, all the different sports. So you'd have to work pretty hard to only make the 32-hour minimum, which is what is the main point here.
Okay, I'm a little confused because you don't have to work hard to work less.
Well, what I mean to say is, ma'am, that we provide plenty of opportunities. There's trips and there's things of that nature that would provide for to equate the 40 and more.
In other words, everyone's guaranteed a 40-hour minimum. Pretty much is what you're saying.
Well, 32 minimum.
I understand 32 guaranteed, but with the overtime, you won't have anyone come out with a 32-hour week. I mean, do you have drivers?
No, rarely. That's rarely.
I mean, if they don't want to work it, I totally understand.
True.
But they have a choice to work their 40-hour week.
Opportunity.
Okay. And then we saw about the forensic audit that you just mentioned, that there was abuse. So am I to understand that it was 100% of the bus drivers were abusing?
No, again, if you go back to there was obviously a number that were, hours that were listed in there. But I don't have names of bus drivers specific or any of that.
And with that said, my only concern always is when we have a few doing bad and then we change to affect everyone, it seems unfair to those who are actually doing their job properly and not abusing. And I wanted to make sure that we looked at that. And the actions that we take are fair to those who are hardworking, law-abiding, policy-abiding, procedure-abiding employees.
And I believe the administration at the bus operations did do exactly that to make sure that that type of thing occurred.
Okay, and the other thing is, did we have administration at Transportation Department? And I say this because of what I used to do for a living. And we used to have bus drivers that were stopped for speeding, believe it or not. And I just want to know that we had an actual run of routes by our administrator on the bus. But you have to be a licensed bus driver to operate a bus. So I don't know if our administration is a licensed bus driver. They have to take 4 exams. The state really tightened those regulations. So have we had our people or someone with a bus driver license actually go to get a bus and physically drive to Lopez to see if you're making it 15 minutes, and physically drive to Veterans, or physically drive, has someone gone out there and actually physically done the route so we can justify that 15 minutes is plenty of time without speeding, going above the limit?
Mr. Barbosa, I think you may have that information.
Madam Board Member, Mr. President, Dr. Montoya, members of the community. To answer your question, yes. At the beginning of the year, ma'am, the bus drivers are allowed, like this coming year, or this August, the 24th, the Friday, the drivers will be afforded the opportunity to take their bus and drive out to their campus that they've been assigned to or that they picked. And then they can come back and go to the routes department and say, look, I've gone from here to Lopez High School or to Veterans, whatever, and I can't make it in 15 minutes. I need an adjustment. They're allowed to run their routes. Now, do you ask the question, does administration ride the buses? Absolutely. I rode over 100 to do evaluations. I'm not a licensed driver for the CDL. However, I have studied. We plan on, in fact, Mr. Rendon is asking that we all become CDL drivers ourselves. I don't know if it makes any difference, but as far as riding the bus, I've personally rode about 100 routes this year to check on monitors and bus drivers.
And the time was kept in that?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, I don't remember there being an issue of a driver being late or anything as far as that was concerned.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar.
Yes. I noticed that they have 45 minutes time limit to take care of the bus, and then, of course, 50 minutes to get to destination. And, of course, a lot of school districts were mentioned that they have less or equal time as we do. Sometimes I wonder, and I'm glad you asked that question about, has Mr. Barbosa really clock the distance? Because in several communities, the schools are not the same distance. You see, so there's a lot of variables when you start talking about time itself, sir, the distance between one school and from the bus depot and all this stuff. And I'm glad that the administration said that they know that if they can make it, they can always call the administration saying, I cannot make it in 15 minutes. I wonder how many times our employees, just like you're saying, that they were told that 32 hours was the limit. Excuse me, yeah. Say 32? Okay. Have you also emphasized, Mr. Montoya, Dr. Montoya, emphasized to the employees, if you cannot make it in 15 minutes, call, you see? And how many have called, how many have not, for the administration to really believe that, they're abusing the time. Secondly, now, maybe I misunderstood Ms. Longoria, but if the board voted to approve the 32 hours, then how can we not be consistent when then we say, give them an opportunity to be 40 hours a week or whatever it might be. So sometimes it's very confusing. At least it confuses me. When do we do this? When we don't? When do we time and when we don't? You can ride the bus 100 times. Do we really have an accurate time and measure the distance between schools? That's all I'm saying. I think we can do a lot of improvement in some of these things that we do as a school district.
Thank you, Mr. Aguilar. Is there any new discussion? If not, I'll open the floor for a motion. Do I have a motion? Longoria?
Before, could I make just a record of objection on the record, please? For legal purposes, could I make a legal objection on the record, not arguing the case, just legally objecting?
Well, I think you've already had your opportunity to make objections, and you've already made an objection.
Okay. There was information that was discussed that I didn't.
Thank you, Mr. Michel. Thank you. Mrs. Longoria, what is your motion?
Yes, I motion to uphold at level 2.
I have a motion, Mrs. Longoria, to uphold level 2. Do I have a second? I have a second, Dr. Saavedra. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Abstentions? Mr. Colunga, you voting? You're absent. Okay. The motion passes with Dr. Saavedra, Mrs. Longoria, and myself voting to uphold level 2, Mrs. Peña and Mr. Aguilar voting against, and Mr. Colunga abstaining. Thank you all.
Dr. Escobedo, I know that the attorney wanted to say something. Can I hear what he has to say? He really tried to say something.
Mr. Michel?
Yes, Mr. Michel, he did.
No, what I was going to do is I was just going to ensure that Mr. Colunga had the opportunity to abstain before the vote, but it was clear that he did.
Thank you, Counselor.
Here they
Mrs. Peña, good point. With that said, we will take just a very brief, maybe 3 to 5 minute recess if there are no objections for the board, just to put our tables away. Any objections for the board? If not, we take a short recess.
I
had told her to wait until all these were done.
The board reconvenes after a short recess. We now continue to item number 9. Item number 5. Presentation regarding bus driver routes during the 2012-2013 school year, established routes, route assignments, route safety, etc., etc. It's a board member request. Dr. Montoya.
Ms. Peña, I think you had some specific questions on that.
Yes, just so they could give us a presentation, and that's why I put presentation, on how these things are established and what we do for safety, for training, and things of that sort. Do we have anyone here prepared to make that presentation?
I think Mr. Barbosa can probably share some of that information.
Mr. Barbosa, welcome again.
Mr. President, Dr. Montoya, members of the board, specifically, ma'am, as far as the routes are concerned, how they've been done in the past, I think that was shared by Mr. Shergold, that it's by seniority, and I assure that nothing has changed as far as choosing the routes. What we simply done, Mr. Rendon and administration went back and looked at the district model as far as the cluster model that we have. You have your superintendent, your area superintendents by cluster. You have your high schools, i.e. Hanna High School, the 2 middle schools, and the respective elementaries. We simply use that same model to cluster our bus drivers, and we've assigned them arbitrarily to a different high school or a different cluster. Within that cluster, Ms. Peña, they'll be allowed by seniority to pick their routes. We divided the drivers arbitrarily by seniority from their senior drivers, your middle drivers, to your beginner drivers by cluster. They'll still be afforded the opportunity to pick any route that they want within that cluster.
May I, Doctor?
Yes, please.
Okay, here's my concern.
Yes, ma'am.
I raised 6 children through BISD. And my boys were afforded the opportunity to drive the bus, to ride a bus. And they were very attached, and they knew who their bus drivers were. Now, what I just heard you say, seniority is going to be applied, and they can pick their assignments, but you're going to place them in a particular cluster, and the seniority applies for the cluster. And let's say not seniority in the district. Let's say you have a bus driver, and this is my severe concern. Say you have a bus driver who's been driving the Lopez route for years and years and years. But for some reason, I don't know how you all decided this, you'll say, now you're going to be at Hannah. And let's say the bus driver says to them, well, I don't know the Hannah. I'm not comfortable driving that area. I know Lopez area like the back of my hands. Here's my point. We've had bus drivers, because it happened to me when I was in junior high. We've had bus drivers that pull up to pick up the children, and these bus drivers has been there for 10, 5, 6, 7 years. And all of a sudden, you get to your bus route, you bus stop, you pick up the kids, and you're like, okay, Johnny Blue is not here. Johnny Blue, let me give him 10 seconds, ya lo conozco. Ha de venir corriendo. And sure enough, here he comes running, Johnny Blue. And the bus driver, why do you always do this? He gets on the bus. But the bus driver knows Johnny Blue. For the last 5 years, he has that issue. Some of us do. That's how we're wired. If we put a new bus driver, my concern and my fear, because it happened to us in junior high, the new bus driver doesn't know the route, doesn't know the children. He's going to take him at least a year to learn to learn what they're like, to know their habits, their goods, their bads, their issues. This bus driver, everybody gets on, nobody left in the corner. He takes off. Here comes Johnny Blue, banging, risking his life, hitting the bus. Wait, here I come. It happened to us in junior high. And you know what the child did? The child got on the emergency ladder, and our bus driver 2.5 miles with him hanging outside, and all of us were screaming, stop the bus. This happened to me at Central Junior High. That's when I decided I needed to be a police officer, because I was shocked. Wow. And he stopped when he felt like stopping, but hey, he didn't have that route. My concern, and this is an extreme case. You know, it wouldn't be tolerated this year or at this time. My concern is, why are we fixing something that's not broken when our parents depend so much on this bus driver as being the second parent and are transporting our treasures, what we live for, what we breathe for, what we exist for. And then when they changed my son's bus driver, he cried. I couldn't put him on the bus anymore. So I'm just saying, I respect your positions and I respect your actions, but can we think of what it's going to affect with the children in those areas? Can we take that into consideration? Because you love your children and adore them like I adore mine. So can we just look at it? And if there are some issues with some bus drivers taking advantage, I'm all for that. You fix the problem. But let's not affect the masses for the few that aren't working. And I, from the bottom of my heart, ask that we take that into consideration, Dr. Montoya, because these are our life's treasures.
Mr. Barbosa, would you look into it?
Absolutely.
Yes, Dr. Saavedra?
I think, Ms. Peña, that's what Mr. Barbosa is trying to say. They're going by seniority, which means...
By cluster, he said. They're going to put them in a cluster.
But seniority. No. They're within the cluster. If they go to Hannah,
that's not what, no. He said seniority used to apply, correct me if I'm wrong, seniority used to apply that the bus driver who's been working 26 years is making $17,000 a year, and God bless them for working for that, would come in and say, well, I want to do the Lopez route. Well, now this year, what I'm hearing you tell me is you're going to get him and say, okay, now you're in the Hannah route. You have seniority, but I'm putting you in the Hannah cluster. Your seniority only applies in the Hannah cluster. Am I correct?
That would be correct, ma'am. In the past, you could say, if a visual, you'd have one giant pyramid. Right. You had one person at the top, the king of the mountain, if you will, and they would pick any route that they wanted, including the one that they had the prior year. This time we have a lot of little pyramids, much like, in fact, exactly what the district model is.
But why are you changing something that's not broken? That's my concern. And I can see you have all the right. You're running the show. You're the supervisor. I can't tell you what to do. I can only speak to my superintendent. My question and my issue is, you've taken 26 years of loyalty people have given us for $17,000 a year. My hat's to them because they're carrying my treasures. And they used to be able to come in and say, I'm at the top, I want to stay in this. from what I'm hearing you say, now you're going to get everyone and arbitrarily set them in where you want to put them, and their seniority is going to apply where you say, not where it used to be before. So I'm looking at a change that I want to make sure is not going to affect our drivers, because with a mind that is not happy and relaxed, you don't have as good of drivers. When someone's somewhere they don't want to be, your mind plays tricks on you. You're only human. You're made out of flesh and blood.
So Mr. Barbosa, you consider that and you look into it?
Absolutely,
Thank you,
Doctor.
sir.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
Moving on to item 9, recommend approval to authorize to accept the Brownsville Early College High School as substantially complete. I'll open the floor for discussion. Dr. Saavedra.
Yes, sir. If you look on page, on the backup for the early college, Dr. Montoya, there, I looked at the several people that made the walkthrough, and my concern is on the punch list, there are many items that still need to be addressed, and particularly the ones that deal with the water that is in front of the building, because you know it's going to rain, and so my concern is if they don't fix the list here that's on the punch list, and we approve this tonight, we don't have a guarantee. We say we do, but we've fallen into that trap before. So in my opinion, there's too many. I don't know what my other colleagues think.
I concur.
That was my concern.
Mr. Haynes, can you go over some of that and as to the status exactly on those?
Thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. Basically, if you look at the punch list, this was done July 26th. Up to now, August 7th, there has been a lot of the items have
Where's
been...
the update?
So I'm going to give you the update. The numbers that I call out are the only things that are pending. The rest have been taken care of. Number four from civil items. From interior work items, you have number 2 and number 14, number 18, number 19. Then you go to exterior general work items. They're all taken care of. If you look at MEP items, number 3, which is on the second page, is still pending. Number 5 is still pending. Landscape, and number 8, 8 from MEP items. From landscape irrigation items, you have number 1, 6, 7, and 8, 10, 11, and 12, 13, and 14 are still pending.
Say that again, please. Number 1.
Again, landscape irrigation, number 1 is still pending. You have number 6, 7, and 8 still pending. Number 10, 11, and 12, 13, and 14.
Is there a timeline for those to be dealt with?
Yes, sir. Specifically, which one would you... if you look at landscape number 1, by August 15th, they would have the program flow on sprinkler systems with landscaping done. Items 6, 7, and 8 by August 24th. They're looking by August 24th. They will, if the plants do not survive, they will be replaced. If they don't cause, they have 90 days. Basically, landscaping, it's 90 days. If they see any of the plants that are not surviving, they will replace them. And after 90 days, then we need to take care of them. I don't know, what other item are you all
specific items, Dr. Saavedra?
No, my concern was that there were too many on the punch list.
Yeah,
I mean, even though they've been reduced, there's still a significant amount. However, most of them fall in the landscape section. So,
any other questions?
Yes, on the interior, replace broken tile around P-trap. You see that room 114, men's toilet?
Yes, ma'am.
That hasn't been done.
No, they needed to match the tiles. So today, the tiles is supposed to come in, and hopefully by tomorrow it'll be done.
Number 14, provide corrective work to drinking fountain wall framing including baseboard side panel installation inward and is unacceptable.
Okay, on this one, they're looking at the date August 17th. What happened is that the arch was slanting inward. They tried to fix it one time by, trying to make some changes to it, but they saw that it was still kind of like slanting inwards. Now they decided to go ahead and redo the whole thing, and again, hopefully by August 17th it'll be done.
Hopefully.
Well, I'm not going to say hopefully,
a scary
but
word.
That's what they tell us, and by the 17th, it's not something that's. Remember that the building is still under warranty for a whole year. Anything that is missing, they're going to fix. And this item on the punch list is not something that is very like serious. It's just a design that needs to be
18
worked at. The 18, what is it?
18 and 19 on interior.
Okay, those they gave us a date of August the 17th.
And what are they? Can you say those are the read
It's
that?
a panel. It's a panel that is bent. It's just
Right.
a panel that covers it, and they have ordered it, and it's bent. So we wanted them to give us a new one that doesn't have any bends in it.
What about 19?
19, you have by August 20th. It's missing the fire label. The door's there, but for some reason it doesn't have the fire label, and they are going to send a representative in to come and look at the door to make sure that it is the door they sold us before they give us the fire label. And the reason that we need to have the fire label is that that's what we paid for, a door.
For safety.
For safety.
Not because we paid for it, because we're looking at safety
yeah,
for our kids.
Basically,
especially
that's the
lab.
kind of door that we did want. So for some reason it didn't have the label, and we're asking for the label. And the only way that they're going to give us a label is if they send a representative to look at the door to make sure that that's the door that they sold us.
Okay, and on MEP, the 3, 5, and 8. I mean, the 3 is the one. The floor boxes, and installation. What is it? Please install cover plates, flush with finished floor. I mean.
Okay, those are plates. Basically, they will have their own order, and it'll. August 15th, they will have it ready.
Okay, and then number 8 on MEP.
Mechanical room.
In the mechanical room, missing heater. What is that going to affect?
That one again is on order. It should be in by August 10th.
Do we have a guarantee that everything will be done by August 17th?
I can call Mr. Cesar Garza to see if he'll give you a guarantee.
Is he here?
Mr.
Garza,
Cesar,
if you'll please come up.
Mr. Garza, did you understand the question? Will everything be done by the time we need the building?
Dr. Escobedo, board members, Dr. Montoya. Yes, we're pushing real hard to get this completed. The punch list, as you see, is long, but we have to submit it 10 days before the board meeting, so it gets on the agenda. And we've been working with a contractor. We've probably finished about 80% of it. Our architect, Mr. Mendez, is here. If you have any other questions, but I think these items and the due dates that we have from the contractor are very acceptable. There's nothing that I see here that is a safety issue or anything why we shouldn't start moving furniture in. And by the time we have our teachers and students, I think all of these items, except for maybe the landscaping, and like Mr. Haynes said, the landscaping maintenance, if we accept the building tonight, we still have 90 days before we actually start cutting the grass, trimming trees. They do that for 90 days, and then we still have a year's warranty. So I feel very good about them completing the punch list.
If I may, Dr. Escobedo and Dr. Montoya, who's the contractor in this project?
Texas Descon.
And we've never had any problems with this particular contractor. He's been very good about keeping.
No, we had them at Pullum, at Peña.
Okay.
So
they're okay.
people
There's someone
we worked with
comfortable
before. We
working.
had good experience with them.
Okay, so you can assure that it will get done when it needs to be done before school gets started in there. Am I
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
Okay, that's the only guarantee I
I have a
have.
motion to approve item number 9.
Move to approve.
Go ahead.
Move to approve.
I I have a motion by Mrs. Peña, seconded by Dr. Saavedra. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on.
gentlemen.
10 and 11, I think went under consent agenda, but there was no motion, so I'd like to move to reconsider item 10 and 11, which are board member requests. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mrs. Peña. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passed unanimously. Moving on to item 10, discussion and possible action regarding employee stipends. This is board member request. Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, again, this is a request from Ms. Peña on the stipend issue, and I guess specifically it would be your question, and then we can go through our CFO to see if we can get you an answer.
Yes, I've had several people address this issue with me, and I've also addressed it, and I know we were talking about it, about the fact that the stipend is going to be split into two instead of one lump sum, and I wanted to find out what the possibilities or the ramifications of having it as one lump sum, and what's the reasoning behind the not giving it as a one lump sum. Can we have the justification for that?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Garcia, I think you had already researched the reasons for that.
Mr. Garcia?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo. Just a couple of quick reminders. Remember that the actual compensation plan for this stipend is going to be discussed has not been approved. We do have a budget committee meeting tomorrow where we're going to discuss it. Currently, based on the June 19th board action, we're working with the 11-12 compensation plan. So therefore, I am prepared tomorrow to go page by page and then address that issue with you, and
I will withdraw it for tonight because it would be a moot point today.
Okay, well, there's no action on item 10. Moving on to item 11, discussion and possible action regarding staffing ratios in all school. Another board member request. Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, again, this is a request from Ms. Peña, and specifically your question.
My question would be, but I guess it would tie into the compensation plan also.
That's
from what you just told me. So at this point, I will move for these questions to be addressed tomorrow. So I would remove this.
Correct. Okay. So no action on item
no
11.
Action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peña.
Thank you, Mrs. Everybody.
Mrs. Everybody, all of you just became women. Thank you.
Everybody.
Welcome to the world.
Moving on to item 12, recommend approval for payment of $9,730.67 to Walsh Anderson. All up in the floor for discussion, Mrs. Longoria.
Yes, Dr. Montoya, I noticed that on page 37 and 38, there are two different amounts, two different invoices. One of them has an amount of $12,735, and the other one $13,023.87. And you all are asking for us to approve a payment of $9,730. I want to know where you got that amount from.
Dr. Montoya.
I think Ms. Ortiz, I know you had worked on the specifics. If you could help us with it.
Ortiz.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, members of the board. Just going back, you're looking at page, I know you have a page 37, but I guess you're looking at the second invoice there from June 4th. Is that what you're looking at? That has a total of $9,346.67?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you noticed that's our current charge amount for this particular invoice, plus there's an additional for $288. The $12,000 there was because Walsh Anderson hadn't taken into account one of the checks that we had sent out back in May. It was for $3,389.20. And so they didn't have to adjust that because they sent us, and I should have included this in your packet, they sent us a breakdown of every single payment that we have made throughout this length of this case. So that's why you have the $9,346.67 plus the $288, and that becomes our current amount because those are current balances.
Okay. Okay.
Any other discussion? If not, to have a motion.
Move to approve.
Item 12 by Mrs. Peña, seconded by Dr. Saavedra. All in favor? Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Moving on to item 13, recommend approval of a $200 payment to Heartline Dacus Barger Dryer. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced some of these names. We'll open the floor for discussion, Mrs. Longoria.
Yes, on this one, Dr. Montoya, is this the final bill? Is there going to be, are there more pending bills?
This is the final payment for this particular, for the RL case versus BISD. It is the final payment.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
I have a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
I have a motion, Mrs. Peña, to approve item 13, seconded by Dr. Saavedra. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 19. Recommend approval to enter into interlocal contract with Harris County Department of Education to develop and begin implementation of a plan for development training. I'll open the floor for discussion. Dr. Saavedra.
Yes, I wanted to know, is this grant only for this year, right? Ending June 2013, correct?
Dr. Montoya?
Ms. Pena, if you would assist with that one.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, and members of the board. Dr. Saavedra, yes, it's for 1 year.
Okay, and we already have the employees in place, right? So they're the ones that are going to conduct this, be involved in this grant? We're not going to have to hire new personnel?
That is correct, Dr. Saavedra. It is within our own personnel that we have at the GED office.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I had a question. I have several questions. On page right here in the page 68, under fiscal implications, it's noted that it's no cost to the district. However, on page I think it's page 72, it states that pending on the funds becoming available, then the district's going to be responsible for whatever expenditures are incurred. So I just want a clarification on that.
Dr. Montoya?
Ms. Pena, go ahead. Go ahead.
Dr.
Mr.
Montoya,
Garcia.
if I may, yes, and I can send backup copy, but at the previous board meeting, we had an actually where we approved the $14,600, and it was from the Harris County. I believe one of the questions was what kind of relationship, or good thing that Houston is sending us the money. I believe that was one of the comments that was made. It was the money that was going to be used to put this interlocal contract between us to fund it.
Okay, and is $14,600 going to be enough for the whole year?
Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, Mrs. Longoria, $14,600 is for the planning year. We're supposed to be planning and submit our plan to the Harris County. It's called Texas Learns, and TEA has subcontracted with them at Harris County. And long story short, this year we're supposed to submit a plan, and that should be where most of the money should be taking place. Now, once we execute, we're going to be looking for universities or junior colleges such as TSTC, TSC, Texas, South Texas, and so that our students can get some kind of training for the job market.
Okay, so this is just for the planning period. No pilot program is going to be implemented as of yet?
As much as, if I may, Dr. Montoya, members of the board, as much as possible, we need to first plan with our staff, get our staff trained, and make sure that they are implementing the job market skills that are needed in the community. That's the bulk of the monies. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, my concern, Dr. Montoya, is still this clause on this contract on page 78, where it says this contract is executed by agency subject to the availability of funds appropriated by the legislative act for the purposes stated. Expenditures and or activities of which contractor may claim reimbursement shall not be occurred or claimed subsequent to receipt of such notice from agency. So I have a concern with this because we already went through this already with the bonds, and I don't want to have to go through the same ordeal.
Mrs. Pena?
Yes, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, members of the board, we were pretty much required, Mrs. Longoria, to apply for this grant at TEA through Harris County. They are advocating all of Texas to have all GED programs work at post-secondary education for all students. And so I understand your concern that we may not be within budget, but I guarantee you that our department will be very vigilant and not exceed that. In fact, our budget has already been approved, and it's already here, and our plan of action will reflect every penny.
So, you know, if we were required to apply for it, what happens if it gets voted down?
Well, that's most, if I may, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, from what I understand from Mrs. Alford, who's the director of GED's program, she pretty much has told me that there has been some school districts that have turned down the funds and said that they're not ready to start a program as this. But the school district is now funding it and making sure that students, it's just a good program and a good endeavor for the entire community, for all people, all students, and whatever their interest lies in a career.
Allows them
I just have one more comment. Yeah, on page 76, it's a description of professional consulting service. It's a contractor's cost breakdown of services to be provided. And this $14,600 includes the contractor's payroll cost, plus supplies and materials and other operating costs. It doesn't say anything about planning, so I'm just wondering whether this $14,000 is going to be enough to pilot the program.
Dr. Escobedo and Dr. Montoya, members of the board, if I may, I'd like to call Ms. Debbie Alford. She pretty much has about 50% of the plan already in her mind.
Ms. Alford.
Hi, good evening, Mr. President, Dr. Montoya, members of the board. We're pretty much ready to go. If you all are not feeling like you want to head in the direction of receiving the funds, by all means, it is up to you to, to vote that you do not want to receive the funds. As I mentioned to Ms. Peña, other districts such as Dallas ISD has decided they don't want to deal with the money and the extra funding coming in, and they're going to continue to implement the program without the funding. So it's your call whether you want to accept the funding and the stipulations. The $14,000, we were asked to apply for it so that we could have money to train our teachers, to buy the curriculum, to get it started, to start a transitions program, to send our students out into the workforce or to college. And it's going to be a piloted program throughout the state, and something that we're ready to get started on whether we get the $14,000 or not. We have the personnel and the funds to do it. I'm just trying to comply with TA and Texas Learns by asking the board for the money.
Thank you, Ms. Albert. With that said, do I have a motion?
I have another comment.
Okay, Mrs. Peña.
Dr. Montoya, because we're in GED and I know we have Ms. Debbie Alford here. Do we offer any of these programs in another language other than English? Do we have? Because I know a lot of. Okay, I'm seeing a no.
As far as the classes, Ms. Peña, excuse me, Dr. Montoya and members of the board, we can only offer GED classes in English because that's a stipulation by the federal government. Now, Brownsville is very blessed that we offer testing in Spanish and English. And when you hear, there's a little bit of confusion, and Ms. Pam Van Ravensway is the administrator for the GED testing through assessment. And we're very fortunate that it's only us all the way to San Antonio that offer GED testing in Spanish. You will not find it in Corpus Christi. They do have it in Laredo, but that's as close as it gets. So that's why you hear a lot of people that say, I heard the GED is closing and you can't, I need the testing. Well, that's because they're coming from McAllen, they're coming from Weslaco, they're coming from Mission to take the test. And we do offer it in English and Spanish.
So then,
Ms. Alford, but again, I remind my colleagues that this item pertains only to interlocal contract.
Well, I just wanted to, because with GED, so I thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
For that.
Mr. Aguilar?
I just want to.
I have a motion by Mr. Aguilar to approve, second by Mrs. Peña. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. And just on another note, 2 weeks ago at the state conference, BISD Adult Continuing Education was awarded platinum levels. So congratulations to you all and to all of us for working very hard. One of the very few programs in the state, and we are platinum levels. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that information. Moving on to item 20, Recommend approval to renew Region 1 Education Service Center renewal in the amount not to exceed $345,000 for the 2012-2013 school year. Items to be purchased and services rendered are subject to the district's needs and funding. I'll open the floor for discussion. Dr. Saavedra.
Yes, sir. It's my concern all the time. With, I guess, spending all this money and we still don't have evaluations done of the programs. How do we know that C-Scope has been effective if we've never received the data? We've never received the data, and we're going to spend $345,000. And if you look at, we also it also requires certain regs for technology. We need to make sure that our systems are up to par and that we have the technology available, because that's going to be an additional cost to the district. So that's my concern. Again, I don't know. We've not received the data for the C-Scope.
Very good point. Mrs. Peña?
On that note, Dr. Montoya, have we actually gone out and looked at all our teachers who are using this program and taking some kind of evaluation and finding out how many teachers actually work with this program comfortably and how many teachers kind of put it aside? Because I understand there's a lot of variables in this curriculum that if you don't have the tools, you can't teach that lesson. So they put it off on the shelf because of what it takes to teach it. So have we gone out and taken some kind of poll to see where our majority of our educators stand with this?
Let me have Dr. Atkinson, because this is under the curriculum and instruction area for actual activity. So,
Dr. Atkinson.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escuedo, members of the board. I know that we are definitely right now looking at how we're evaluating different programs throughout the district. I know the last curriculum meeting, Ms. Pam from assessment went through and actually very clearly presented in a I think it was the first time it's been presented in this fashion to the district, where there had been a direct correlation between the benchmarks and the assessments that we had. So in terms of actual program evaluations for the different programs versus C-Scope, which is our curriculum platform, I know that Ms. Garcia is going to be presenting some information right now in terms of how it's been assessed this year. But the true mark of C-Scope, and this is a state statement at this point that they've made, is our student assessment and where we are with student assessment. Now, we don't look at, I know we have Project Share and we have other avenues to look at the actual usage by our employees, but to actually look at going back and to surveying them in terms of their needs, I know that there's in the works right now being able to work through our academic teams in the curriculum department, going back to working with their deans, facilitators, and then their departments, then their grade levels to ensure that all of it is meeting at the appropriate level. Because I think one of the issues that has come up, and it's something that actually Dr. Smith and I discussed previously, was when it doesn't go filter all the way down to the teacher and we're not assured of their confidence level and the ease of use, things have to be user-friendly in order to complement the instruction that has to go into the classroom. And where there are technology issues or there are uses issues, those things have to be addressed. But I would like to have Ms. Garcia address the issues at the different grade levels. Ms. Garcia.
If I may, Dr. Escobedo, while she's walking up, my concern and my question, I understand our assessments are good, but how many of them are actually using this program to actually get those types of ratings or the grades or educating the child? And how many of them are putting him on the shelf and teaching the child with what they have because they can't use this program and getting good results? So how true is it that this is the program that's getting us that result? Unless you go and tell them to freely tell you how they feel without fear of retaliation, because, oh boy, that's a big word, we will get a true understanding of how valuable this program is to our district.
Mrs. Garcia, very specific questions. Do you have the answers?
Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, administration. First of all, in the area of usage of the program, in the background information, we've been using C-Scope now for about 2 years in all 4 areas. BISD rolled out C-Scope very differently from other districts, that we did not go full force with all 4 core areas. We started with math, then we went to math and science, and then we went into the 4 core areas: language arts, math, science, and social studies, K through 12. In the usage of C-Scope, since it's an online curriculum, This is a curriculum that drives the instruction because it has the state standards. It now has the college career readiness standards. It has the English language proficiency standards. So in terms of the usage of the campuses, we know that it has the vertical alignment documents, it has a year at a YAG, it has instructional focus documents. It's an online curriculum that the teachers only need their username and a password to go into this particular curriculum. So in terms of usage, every core area does perform, and we do administer a monkey survey, which is anonymous. And we did it again this year, and we're compiling that type of data where every core area, language arts, math, science, and social studies, the specialists have sent out that monkey survey every spring, so that we can identify which are the areas that we need to focus on. Do we need for them to have more training on the online use? Do we need more training on the vertical alignment documents, etc.? So that type of usage we do have in our office for each one of the core areas. As far as the technology, we're going into a new platform, and I came forth to the board at the last board meeting to provide a presentation that Third Learning is now the new curriculum platform. As we speak, today we started with our facilitators and we trained them on the new platform. Our specialists or district key people, curriculum people, went to Region 1 and myself last week to Region 1 to receive the training. So today we met with our first group, which were the facilitators. Tomorrow morning we meet with our middle school deans and department heads, and in the afternoon we'll meet with our high school deans and our department heads to share the new platform, and it's user friendly. It's even now more accessible. It has the C-Scope has videos, they have tutorials, so the facilitators were very impressed with now the friendliness of the system. If it was before, it is even now in all 4 core areas, and it has the specificities for our new end of course. It has the specificity for STAR. And so as I mentioned to you, our facilitators, our deans, our middle schools, our high schools, in terms of our schools, we do know with the data that Ms. Pam has presented that we have our schools in tiers. So the schools that are most in need, those are the schools that we're going to target and focus if that's their area that they need to be trained on, which is the C-Scope and which is the new learning platform. So in the tiering of the schools, we now have which are the schools that are in most need, those schools that need some guidance and some schools that are ready to fly with it, then we are going to proceed in that manner in providing this new training to all of our campuses.
I have a question. You mentioned all of the people involved. What about our AAs, because they deal with instruction? Are they also going to get trained and understand, because if it's a new platform?
Absolutely, because they're going to have to be the model for their principals,
Definitely.
so that's going to be one of the major requirements.
And I guess my question is, how detrimental is it that because we don't have that information on the usage of, who is using it, what the needs are, I would like to hold off on this, if I may, and table this item until we get that information, and then maybe put it on for the next meeting. Would it affect?
This will be a direct question to the CNI department. What is the impact?
The 21st is our next meeting.
The 21st, August 21st?
August 21st.
And you're asking for what data in particular, Dr. Sweather?
The usage of the C-Scope and where the needs are. I mean, you have them as a district, and the concern was, we hear through the grapevine that not everybody is using it. There's no follow-up. The teachers have the necessary resources that they need to carry out whatever strategies they're going to use. And I think that's where we're hearing the discomfort and the uncertainties of the C-Scope. I understand it. I know it's a good platform when it is used and followed up, but that's always been in a district this large. We start with something, we don't evaluate, we don't follow up, we don't get the information, and then we're faced with, let's approve it. Just go and spend $345,000 and trust us. Yet our scores were low in reading, so you say there was a language arts component. Our scores were low in reading. You can't blame because we didn't have the reading first, because we had the strategies. So that's where I'm coming from in the curriculum sense. Show me the data and how it affects student achievement.
Dr. Atkinson?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Escobedo. Dr. Montoya. Dr. Escobedo, may I speak frankly? Mm-hmm. Okay. One of the things that I think we have discussed as a cabinet with Dr. Montoya, we met with the principals today, the AAs, everybody has been on the same page with this. And unfortunately, we have seen a slide really in the last 2-year period, and really I could even say 3-year period. Now, where we stopped that gap, unfortunately, has been the lack of, where we have allowed that to happen, has been the lack of monitoring, the lack of the accountability. And one of the things that the board has charged the superintendent, and he in turn has charged us with, is the more careful accountability and the monitoring of our systems. This is a system, and it really is a phenomenal system. And what it can do for us, if carefully monitored and promoted throughout the district, it can really help stop those gaps, especially with our SPED and our LET population. It's not the implementation is not perfect. The system is very good, and I think right now with the direction I think that we have, we'll be able to make huge strides, and you'll see that at the end of the year. Now, what happens at this point is when we talk about the usage, we can look at that. It's going to probably not be the best usage. I just want to make sure that, well, and you're going to see that if you look at it over the last 3-4 year period, it's the same thing. And unfortunately, right now, the focus is totally different. Last year's focus, completely different. We did a 180 in terms of what we're doing now with the walkthroughs and monitoring, making sure that we drill down even to the grade level and the department level to ensure that our specialists and everybody, all hands are on deck at this point. And I can't explain what happened in the past, but I can try to explain the direction that we're headed in now. And that's the one thing that I just want to preface it with. At this point, Dr. Feather, because unfortunately I don't think the data is going to be impressive to you in terms of the usage from prior years. What we can say, though, at this point, though, is when we start talking, whether we use SurveyMonkey, we look at, other protocols that we can follow to get you data in the next 2-week period, it will be more promising. But I'm at a loss to how you would like for us to connect it, because if we use past performance as the rationale to go forward, you're going to be very disappointed. I'm very disappointed. We're all disappointed.
Well, and we're also getting charged per student enrollment. You're talking about 46,232 students that we have enrolled, and $7 per student. And so if not every student has been exposed, and we can see that, of course we're all disappointed. Yes. That's why we keep bringing up the importance of evaluation and accountability. That's why my suggestion and my recommendation and my motion is to table this item until we can get further data and information. I know it's not going to be good, but we at least will have the numbers.
Sure.
Could we have something for the August 21st meeting? Absolutely. So that we can then deal with it from that perspective?
Yes, sir.
Okay, with that said, I have a motion to postpone this item until the next regularly scheduled board meeting. Do I have a by Dr. Saavedra? Do I have a second? Second by Mrs. Peña. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 21. Recommend approval of a memorandum of understanding with Niños Head Start to integrate a school readiness integration model for eligible Head Start 3- and 4-year-old students for the 2012-2013 school year. I'll open the floor for discussion. Mrs. Longoria.
Yes, sir. Dr. Montoya, on this one, I'm all about educating our little ones and start as early as possible. However, I did notice that BISD hires the teachers to go and to teach at these centers.
I believe Ms. Gonzalez Maria, I think, is here or was here. I think she has that information.
There she is.
If you'd step up forward, please, and Ms. Garcia also. We do coordinate very closely because we want, I think, similar curriculums, and also because they deal directly with the kids that are going to come right back to us in our regular campuses. But go ahead.
Ms. Garcia?
Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, board members, administration. A little background here with the Niños Head Start. When we first started with the Niños Head Start MOU, we had an initiative where with Title I funds, categorical funds, we had 2 school readiness integration teachers, one at DJ Lerma and one at the Cameron Park Head Start. With our TLI grant, which is the Texas Literacy Initiative grant, this was one item that really impressed them to fund our Texas Literacy Grant because of the initiative that we had taken in working with our early childhood grade students. So with Cameron Park and DJ Lerma, we worked with our 4-year-olds, and we call them satellite sites because the 2 teachers are BISD teachers, certified teachers, highly qualified teachers, and they not only serve as teaching our 4-year-olds, getting them ready for the school setting, which is BISD, but they also help the teachers that are at the Head Starts because they're the role models. These are certified teachers, whereas the Head Starts might have teachers that do not have the 4-year high qualified certificate. So they are serving as our teachers of the 2 Head Starts. So in terms of the TLI grant now, we are now funding 2 Head Starts, which are Rancho del Cielo Early Head Start and the Brownie Road. Rancho del Cielo is going to be serving our students that are in the Benavides Elementary area, and then the Brownie Road serve our students that are in the Bright Elementary School area. All 4 teachers, as per categorical funds, because this grant is looking at how we can supplement. It's a supplemental type of funding that we are providing at these 4 Head Starts. So yes, they are BISD certified teachers. Yes, in order for us to show that we are supplementing instead of supplanting, and this is one big boost for BISD, and one of the reasons why we got the TLI grant, because we're working with 3- and 4-year-olds now.
Okay, and yeah, don't these centers get funding through grants as well?
Probably, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
so this the amount that we're paying, 240 some thousand. This is to pay our teachers, or what is that money?
The salaries, ma'am, the 4 salaries. So if minimally there's 60,000 times 4, that's our 240 for the 4 teachers.
And we already have a 3-year-old program, pre-K program. Why do we need to go out to these other centers?
Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, Ms. Longoria, board members, the initiative is that we're going to be forming partnerships, getting our students ready for the regular school setting, which is the school district. Some of our 3-year-olds, yes, we have a 3-year-old program. It is not at all the elementary campuses. So we are reaching out and partnering with the Head Start. So once they go into our regular school setting, we are now giving them that Head Start as to what is expected, what's the curriculum at the school district that we're offering. So we're helping the parents, we're helping the students, and achieving our goal of getting them ready for our regular school setting in the school district.
Okay, and as the same as the other programs, have you evaluated these programs, and has it been effective? And
That's a good question, and right now we're working with Ms. Pam from ARE, and we are gathering that data in reference to our 3-year-olds at the Head Starts and when they're coming into BISD, because the assessment that's used will be used as a factor for us to look at and see the growth, the increase. And we're also looking at our 4-year-olds as they go from 4 to 5 and now in 1st grade. So that's currently being done and planned for this particular
yeah,
initiative.
good. That was what I wanted to know, whether those children are coming to our schools or are
Yes.
they leaving, So
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
I've got a question.
Peña?
Rancho del Cielo, what area does that encompass?
Rancho del Cielo is off of Benavides Elementary, so...
Benavides area.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Any question, comments? If not, have a motion?
Sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Aguilar.
Yes, I think this partnership with Head Start is a wonderful program. I'll tell you why. We don't have that many 3-year-old programs in BISD. And the neighborhood they're selecting are some of the kids that are from the low-income families, and that's where we need this kind of services.
I agree.
And some of the reasons we don't have them across the school district, because some administrators choose not to have these programs because with legitimate reasons. Some of them do not have the classroom or the facilities because they need to be close to a bathroom, stuff like that, that do not, our schools sometimes do not offer that kind of accommodations. So therefore, they're limited. I wish we could have some of this because I remember 2 years ago, the school district established one at Russell Elementary, which was very successful. So I think sometimes we have to reach out and form partnerships in our community to help the these young people. And Brownie area is one of the lowest income families neighborhood that we have in Brownsville. So I'm so glad.
Cameron Park.
And Cameron, well, just parallel with Cameron Park.
Yes, sir.
If some of you have visited the area in Brownie Street, I mean, you will see that is what I'm talking about. So I think that this is an excellent partnership, Dr. Montoya.
I concur.
That said,
One more question real quick.
Longoria?
Yes, Ms. Garcia and Ms. Gonzalez. How many students are being serviced at each center? Do you have an idea?
The 3-year-old program, we will start this year, and we will have an AM session and a PM session. And due to the requirements of teacher-student ratio, we're going to have 16 in the morning and 16 in the afternoon at both sites. At Cameron Park and DJ Lerma, we have 20 in the morning and 20 in the afternoon. And so we service 40 students total throughout the day. And we are also generating 88 for our school district while we're doing this because they're BISD children. So we're taking attendance on a daily basis.
Okay, good. Okay.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
I think once we get the data, as they already realize that, I think it's going to show that the program is successful. We just wanted to make sure that we use our money wisely.
Yes, ma'am.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mrs. Peña to approve item number 21. Second by Mr. Aguilar. In favor?
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Moving on to item 22. Recommend approval of an MOU between the UTB Educational Talent Search Program and BISD, designed for all 11 middle schools and 6 high schools for the 2012-20 through 2017 school year. I'll open the floor for discussion. Mrs. Peña.
Yes, can I get a little more background on this? What exactly?
Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, Ms. Peña, I think you've been working on that program. If you share the information.
Thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. Mrs. Peña, this program has been around for many, many years. In this last round, they applied, and we were successful enough to get it for all our middle schools and our high schools. And what this program does is provide a lot of support to the school as far as selecting students who are very interested in going to college, who want to succeed, and that their parents are willing to be part of a program where they get trained as well on college readiness. They get to go to universities, different universities, so they can get college applications, college scholarships. They work with the students on study skills. They work with, and they start in middle school. So there's a pattern here. Now, while they have a caseload, district-wide, we're going to be servicing 680 students. That's about 2025. But the people that are on campus are a motivator and a student advocate to where they go around the hallways advocating for scholarships, college promotion, that sort of service to the school district. They will be working with the administration as far as looking at counseling with these students for career choices or for study choices as well. And they work hand in hand with our regular counselors.
And the fiscal implications, the impact, is there any?
If I may, Dr. Montoya,
Please.
members of the board, and Dr. Escobedo, they asked for a meeting space for program activities because they do have after-school activities. They asked for maybe an area where they can do some tutoring with students after school. They asked that maybe once a week they be provided access to a computer lab, an internet for specific student needs. And from time to time, maybe about 2 or 3 times a semester, they take the students to different colleges or to different activities, and they ask for transportation, and that comes from the school funds.
Dr. Saavedra?
Thank you.
Yes. I noticed that when Ms. Ortiz reviewed the MOU, there is a communication that she sent out on page 131 that suggests that it's a 5-year agreement, and the board will want to know the fiscal impact. And if this is a collaboration program, is it effective? And then she suggests, please consider this when submitted for approval. So it's something that we need to consider. Is this a 5-year MOU?
This is a 5-year grant, and we're asking for 5-year approval. Dr. Saavedra, members of the board, Dr. Montoya, and Dr. Escobedo, I do ask, and I will pledge, that if there's any change to this memorandum of understanding, it has to go through council, and it has to come back to the board to be approved under the new circumstances or the new language.
And again, we've done this before, and do we have the data also for this as far as how effective has it been for our students who really have made the transition? A lot of times we don't do the follow-up also. So these students that started this talent search, probably a lot of them have already graduated and gone on to post-secondary education. So if we could get that somewhere in our packet or our weekly letter so that we can see, because it has been in existence for some time. So just so that we can see that.
Dr. Montoya, if I may, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, I have provided you with an overview of the program evaluation, and I also reviewed it and noticed that they're hitting 100%, and the students that they worked with, that these students went on to a post-secondary. Of course, I had it here a second ago, that these students have been very successful in going to college. Do you have it in your packet? It has to be.
We didn't have it in the backup either. But you can just send it on the weekly. That's fine.
Okay, I was very proud of the evaluation. In fact, I knew that could possibly be a question, and I thought I was being over-prepared. And now I can't find it.
Oh, okay.
We'll have it Friday, right?
Question.
Peña.
Yes, and to Dr. Montoya, may I consult with our attorney, Leandra? We've looked at this MOU, and everything is in order, and there's nothing we have missed that can come back and.
Counselor, yes or no?
Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, members of the board, I have reviewed it. That indicated by my review approval letter there. But that was my concern, was that it is a 5-year agreement, and so it can be something that perhaps we need to consider making sure in the board action that it would be to come back each year for approval.
Mr. Aguilar, you have a motion?
Yes, I have a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Aguilar, seconded by Dr. Saavedra. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes unanimously.
Well, it just, I mean, her concern was a valid concern, and so.
We're not saying anything, we just wanted to.
Include that in the motion?
Can we include that as part of the motion for every year to be approved instead of 5 years?
We'll have to be approved every year?
Or every 2 years? 5 years is a lot.
5 year. Well, it's a 5-year grant.
Right.
We can't decide to stop it.
Well, if it doesn't work or there's a problem, can we come back and address it? That's my
Dr. Montoya, can we terminate it for any given point?
I guess that would be a legal question if we agree to a 5-year based on a board decision. If something were to go negative and the data showed it just wasn't working, can it be terminated?
They would have to breach that MOU, and that would be.
It just depends on what the problem arising may or may not be. So there's not a clear answer. But yes, if there's something that arises, I'm sure that we can address it with the program and with the other individuals
Mr. Garcia?
involved in the program.
Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, if I may, I think that the original recommendation by our staff attorney is the correct one, where it is for a 5-year, but it has to be brought on a yearly basis, because if not, you're committing for 5 years, and I don't think you can do that.
Every year for a presentation or for
Yes, just
reapproval?
for renewal.
Presentation. For presentation, not for approval.
Yeah, well, presentation and just to see how it's going. I agree that's something that's necessary.
We can have a 1 year. Does that have to be in the motion? Mr. Aguilar, would you like to amend your motion, with an annual update? Okay. So the motion is amended. There's
Second.
Correct. Motion by Mr. Aguilar with an amendment. Who seconded the first time? Mrs. Peña or Dr. Saavedra? Do you second it again? All in favor? Aye. Motion passed unanimously. To approve item 22 with an annual update and presentation to the board. Mrs. Peña?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya. On page 129 and 130, you have the results of the program evaluation for the past years.
Thank you. With that said, moving on to item 23, recommend awarding RFQ 13-016, annual RFQ for Texas Consulting Firm to provide indoor air quality sample collection analysis. I'll open the floor for discussion. Dr. Saavedra.
Yes, I just had a concern because I noticed that we only had one bid.
Yeah, me too. What happened?
What happened?
Dr. Montoya?
Mr. Haynes, if you'd like to address that issue.
What happened?
Thank you, Dr. Montoya. Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. Basically, purchasing department, what they do, they work on the specs, and they invite, if you look at the next page,
I saw that.
they have 20 people or 20 companies that were invited, but this is the only company that has been submitting, and I think they've been on this bid, in the past several years, but that's the only, I'm not sure if you all would like us to try.
I've got a
back again,
question.
Peña?
And no offense, and if I step on anyone's toes, I apologize in advance. What proof do we have that these invitations were sent and received by these people listed? Because it's happened in the past where when someone didn't get a particular invitation, they've shown, and I brought it to past administration, where they received it the day after it closed, so then you're considered, you can't respond. So what do we have in place? Because I find it particularly concerning that you have one respond out of how many are here? 20. 1 out of 20. And can I find out who had it last year?
But Mr. Garcia? Or I'm sorry, Mr. Haynes? Sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, members of the board. I believe it was ACI, the same company had it last year.
And I don't have a problem with them. I don't have any concern with them. I just have a problem with people saying about the fairness. And just coincidentally, they're the only ones, and it's what? I'm thinking it says amount expended for the previous 12 months is $261,000, $500,000 contract, and only one person answered. I just have a little bit of concern.
Mr.
It looks
Aguilar?
a little strange.
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo. Now we go again, year after year, the same thing. Why is the one bid? I know the administrations tell us they send all these invitations. If there's anyone out there in the public that feel that they left out, why don't they come forward
Right.
and tell us? Because if one bid was received, what else can the administration do?
Nothing. Yeah.
Well, with that, if I may, Dr.
Please.
Montoya and Dr. Escobedo, that was brought to us in one administration, where they brought the fact that they received it the day after it closed, and it was handed to administration, or it had the wrong address, and it was given to administration, and nothing happened. So that's why I bring it up, because I want to know to administration that I find this a little strange.
Dr. Montoya, and I know because I'm very familiar with both sides, our side and the other side as well. Sometimes vendors change addresses or whatnot, they move, and it's not our responsibility to follow them around. But Dr. Montoya, if anyone out there has an issue, may they come to you?
Yes, have them come to me, and also we need to make sure, Mr. Garcia, and I know we do, but to re-verify what was the process of getting the invitations out. I mean, did we have they, send it through the mail and have to sign off, or, how was it done? Yeah, so maybe
and
that would-
oftentimes the office staff of the vendors, for whatever reason, they don't see their faxes or their mail until it's too late, and that's beyond our fault. But have these vendors come to you, right? They should not come to us.
So that we can.
Right.
Thank you. Mr. Aguilar? Mr. Aguilar?
Escuela, also, in following up, if you mail those invitations, how come a member of the person's department, whoever handles this, follow up with a phone call that you received this mail, and have a tally or some kind of a record that you talked with those people that were sending invitations to say, yes, I received it. No, I did not receive it because I have the wrong address. But I think if it's the wrong address, I think it's a business responsibility
The vendor, right?
the vendor to come and tell the district, listen, I'm no longer at that former address.
I have a comment.
Mr. Longoria?
Perhaps some of these bid specs need to be revised so that other people can qualify, in submitting their bids. And then also, under fiscal implications, there's no amounts. It's just not to exceed approved budget of local funds. I would like to see an amount.
Dr. Montoya?
Do you want to explain why that amount and how that works?
Thank you, Dr. Montoya, Dr. Escobedo, members of the board. The reason that we do have not an expected amount, but just a fixed amount there is that we are not sure how much the district is going to spend. When you look at this type of a company, it is based basically on the needs of the district. If the district or a campus feels that there is asbestos or air quality or something that needs to be looked into, then we come to this company and have them provide the indoor air quality or the abatement or whatever needs to be done to correct the situation.
So it could.
And that's why there's no.
It could be less.
It could be less. It could be more. Believe in the past 2 years or 3 years back, we had spent probably close to $485. Last year is only $200,000, 261. So we're basing it on last year's spending, and hopefully it'll be less than that.
Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Colunga?
Just a question on what have been the results of the analysis and the asbestos, any patterns that have emerged over the past few years?
Go ahead, Mr. Haynes.
Mr. Haynes?
Thank you, Dr. Escobedo, Dr. Montoya, members of the board. We do have some of the, I guess, work that we requested. At this time, I would like to call Mr. Cano to the front, if I may.
Mr. Cano? Any patterns in regards to asbestos within the district?
Good afternoon, Mr. Board President, Dr. Montoya, and board members and fellow faculty. Could I hear the question again, please?
Mr. Colunga?
With the expenditures for this type of consulting, indoor quality, air quality, and asbestos abatement, what have been the results, say, for the past 2 years related to the samples that were collected, or what has been the outcome of the analysis? Or?
Okay, in most of our scenarios, it had been, let's discuss indoor air quality. We take several samples indoors. We take several samples in the immediate vicinity of concern. Then we take samples outdoors to get a baseline. For the most part, the interior of the building is coming out cleaner than what it is outside when it comes to indoor air quality. When it in regards to asbestos abatement, during an asbestos abatement job, what occurs is we will set up certain sampling points and determine if that during the abatement, if there's been enough stirred up asbestos particles that exceeds the state requirements, which is 0.01. For standard industry standards, it's 0.1, but for school districts, it is 0.01. And we've never exceeded the 0.01 fiber per count in any of our abatements.
Mr. Colunga, does that satisfy you?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cano. Any other questions or comments from the board? I have a motion by Dr.
Second.
Saavedra, seconded by Mrs. Peña to approve item 23. Do all in favor, aye? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 11, closed meeting as pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 et sec. Board goes into closed meeting for personnel matters. The board reconvenes after closed session. If there are no objections from my colleagues, I'd like to approve the personal items in bulk. That would be items, do I have a motion to approve items 25,
Move to
26,
approve.
27, 28, 30, and 31? I have a motion by Mrs. Peña, seconded by Dr. Saavedra. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to announcements, Dr. Montoya.
Dr. Escobedo, members of the board, again, the next official board meeting will be August 21st here in the boardroom, but I remind you again that this Thursday and Friday are some of the training sessions for our administrators over at Veterans all day. You are welcome to visit those sites, and that's it, sir.
Thank you very much. I have a motion to approve. I'm sorry, to adjourn. I have a motion
Move
by
to
Dr. Saavedra
approve.
to adjourn, and seconded by Mrs. Peña. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Have a good night.
It was Dr.
Good night, Brownsville.